Medellín, Colombia, December 3rd, 1993. It's not just any old man being laid to rest. He is the most formidable drug lord in history. Some referred to him as Robin Hood, while others branded him a drug lord and terrorist. The Colombian army and police had to keep the burial under control because of the size of the gathering that day. However, why did 25,000 people attend the world's most wanted criminal's funeral? Why is there so much misery and chaos? Continue watching this video to find out more about the day of the largest drug lord's burial. The day Pablo died was a terrible one. Don Pablo's demise was imminent after 16 years as a drug lord. Both the Colombian American government and the cartel's competitors wanted him, and he was evading them all. But there was a serious issue. Nobody had any idea where he was. However, the CIA already had Pablo's family under control and was just waiting for Pablo to make a fatal error. Pablo made a call to his kid on December 2nd, 1993. Although Pablo was aware of the danger, he might have wished to speak with his kid one final time after realizing that it was done. Pablo was to be found by the CIA in the Medellín section of Barrio Los Olivos. The Colombian Army and U.S. Special Forces intervened and killed Pablo and the lone bodyguard following a gunfight. It was then that Viva Colombia came on the radio. The army cheered, "We just killed Pablo Escobar," the public's response to the drug lord's death. Today, 16 months after he broke out of prison, drug lord Pablo Escobar was assassinated. The country was rocked by unrest shortly after the news broke. A spark was so powerful that it roused people across the nation. The word of his passing spread like wildfire. News outlets were unable to comment, but Pablo Escobar was shot and killed. The cocaine kingpin is no longer alive in Colombia. Radio stations were adamantly declaring that Escobar was dead. Escobar's passing elicited a mixture of admiration and sadness from the gathering. A tangible sense of loss and pain was evident. The drug dealer's game was shifting, and everyone wanted to take over the field. The Pablos were arrested by the authorities, and then the streets of Colombia were suddenly filled with a gavel. People began coming out to the scene of the death. It was no longer the case when a large number of individuals arrived at the scene of death. They gathered to celebrate their Robin Hood, even if they were Escobar's supporters. To the inhabitants of Medellín's hillside, he was a hero, but to the authorities, he was a vicious cocaine mogul. He will be remembered by Colombians as the man who donated millions of dollars to the country's impoverished. The funeral drew a sizable crowd, and Pablo's friends and relatives attended to offer their final respects. The demise of their Robin Hood caused sadness for some. Others expressed relief that Escobar was unable to continue his illegal activities. Some of the mourners held banners that read, "Pablo, you will always be with us," and "Long live Pablo Escobar." And others donned T-shirts featuring images of the late leader. It has been reported that the drug lord's family had to turn around and miss the funeral because the mob was so large that they were unable to unlock the car doors that led them there. In fear and silence, the drug lord family grieved his passing. Pablo Escobar's family and friends were particularly affected by his passing. In addition to mourning his passing, they also had to deal with the fallout from the media attention that followed the news of his passing. Following his passing, his remains were transported to a nearby morgue in Medellín, Colombia. Escobar's family left the scene after honoring the deceased drug kingpin, while reporters and their adversaries encircled the ceremony. Jardines Montesacro served as the venue for the funeral. 2 days after his death, in a Medellín cemetery, thousands of people said their final goodbyes and grieved that terrible day. Despite their best efforts, the police were unable to halt the angry mourning. Once the throng was subdued, they retaliated and attended the burial. The priests attempted to recite some prayers, but were ultimately unable to do so because of the crowd's pressure and push, because the burial was conducted so quickly. Many issues plagued his family, including government pressure, charges from the media, and dread of the adversary. It was a day to remember. "We are just going through a lot and trying to make our lives normal," Escobar's son said in agony as the reporters attacked the family. "For me, my sister Manuela, and my mother, the last 24 hours had been the most trying times of our lives. Not only was it extremely painful to lose the head of the family in such a violent manner, but the funeral was much more agonizing. Today was a huge shift. Some lost their idol, some lost the head of their family, and some got rid of the world's most infamous criminal. How does the legend rank among Colombians? In Colombia, Pablo Escobar was a contentious and divisive figure. People's opinions on it vary there. Some see Escobar as a Robin Hood-like character who took advantage of his money and influence to aid his community's disadvantaged and impoverished members. He was a violent and immoral drug dealer who engaged in criminal acts, which is why some Colombians hate him. Pablo is a black story for Colombia, according to many Colombians, much like Hitler was for the Germans. Colombian passports are reportedly scrutinized more than required at the airport due to the country's name, which annoys some people. There has been disagreement since his tragic death in 1993 on whether he should be regarded as a horror or a folk hero. How do you feel? Even now, does Pablo Escobar merit this much attention? Let us know in the comments. People's opinions on it vary there. Some see Escobar as a Robin Hood-like character who took advantage of his money and influence to aid his community's disadvantaged and impoverished members. He was a violent and immoral drug dealer who engaged in criminal acts, which is why some Colombians hate him. Pablo is a black story for Colombia, according to many Colombians, much like Hitler was for the Germans. Colombian passports are reportedly scrutinized more than required at the airport due to the country's name, which annoys some people. Opinions on whether he should be regarded as a horror story or a folk hero have been disputed since his tragic death in 1993. What are your thoughts? Does Pablo Escobar still merit this much attention? Please leave a comment for us.